And he doesn't know this, but Pop and I, his mom and dad are my next door neighbors, and I didn't even realize that you were their son. But we call them every once in a while and go, hey, want to go to Red Door Grill with us? They have great hamburgers. Or want to go here and get a bite to eat with us? They have great hamburgers. Then they're over for dinner one night, and they told me that you own Johnny's. It's like, oh, and I'm talking about all these other places that have great hamburgers. But anyway, I'm thrilled to have him here. If you look up some history of Johnny's on the website, it started in 1910 originally. He doesn't look that old, does he? But anyways, when Rick and his buddy that were rugby players at KU, I take it, you were playing rugby, bought it in 1978, and it says on the website to ensure a place for teammates to partake in suds and song. And at that point, you added the grill behind the bar, it says on there, and served up Johnny's world famous burgers. The bar serves 3 2-beer burgers and chips and pickled eggs. It opened at 7 a.m. in time for the shift workers to get a cold one after work and closed according to state law at midnight. So that was the state in 1978, and now there's 10 Johnny's, correct?
Yes, there are.
Okay, so Rick, we'd love to hear the story of from 1978 to 10 Johnny's now.
Wow. Thank you, Professor Millar. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate you setting this up. And don't feel bad about not knowing the connection there. My dad was my stepdad. His last name was Adams. Mine's Renfro. And a lot of people, it's amazing how small a place Kansas City is. Even though it's a big, 2 million, 3 million place, all the time I run into people that don't know the relationship there and what's going on. And also, I like how you said, if you read the website, and I'm thinking that you're qualifying what you said, because in this day of facts, I don't believe everything I read on the website. I'm not necessarily sure I would believe everything that's on our website. So take everything with a grain of salt. But I am 61 years old. I went to Shawnee Mission West. I graduated in Yo, Vikings! I went to Ottawa College and played a year of football up there. But I was more of a social guy. There's only 600 people up there. So I moved to KU my second year and started playing rugby. And that became the passion of my life. And I neglected everything else in my life, school. My first year of school, I got straight A's, 36 hours. That's 18 hours a semester, straight A's, because there were 22 kids in our class. The football coach made sure that I was there, studying. Then when I moved to KU, I didn't have enough personal responsibility that I could go to class. So I figured, started on the downhill slide. I got a job as a bartender, and I was trying to figure out what to do with my life. Didn't know. And like most things in life, you just network with people and you meet people and opportunities come up. And sometimes you jump on and sometimes you don't. Unfortunately, I've jumped on most of them. And I've had a lot more failures than I have success. But I was bartending and I was failing in school and I wanted to stay and play rugby. So one of my customers at the Eagles Club owned Johnny's at the time. He didn't work there, but he just owned it. And he said, you gotta buy this bar for me. I went over and checked it out, and it was a dive bar, bad news. I was a tough rugby guy, and I felt uncomfortable going in there because it was pretty rugged and low rent. And then I remember about 2 months later, I was like, I have $2.50 left back then. That'd buy you about 2 beers and maybe a hot dog or something like that. So I gotta do something. So I got one of my buddies and I said, let's just jump into this. The bar owner was, he wanted to get out. He was done with it. And so I bought it for $5,000, just the business itself, 1978. I paid him $500 down, and I paid him $500 a month for 10 months, I believe it was, whatever interest rate that was. Back then, the interest rate was 17%. Jimmy Carter was the president. Holy shit. But you know what? I borrowed 2 or 3 times at that rate, and I was happy to get it because I figured that I could take that money, and even though I was paying 17% for it, I was going to make 25 or 30% off of it. And you guys are all the business school people. You guys aren't business school, you're entrepreneurs, right? Entrepreneurs and what else? Marketing? What else? Anybody, any other disciplines?
Public relations.
Public relations, which is in everything, isn't it?
Right. And is the Johnnies you're talking about on 7th Street?
No, it's not.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Those guys they're really nice people, but they're not part of the deal.
Oh.
They started in the early 80s is when they started
Okay,
there
I was just-
on 7th Street Traffic Way.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
By
And that's like the
7th
one I
Street.
work at.
Right.
Old local place, yeah. The business schools get too much credit up at KU, they just built a new big, huge thing. And then I say, what do you get your degree in business? Well, what's that mean? And it's anywhere from here to here, all kinds of stuff. I think that specific things like marketing, entrepreneurship, and those kinds of things that get you to think outside the box is really a good way to go to try and figure out what you want to do and all that. Do any of you guys have it figured out exactly what you want to do? Everybody's kind of, I don't know, maybe this, maybe that, we'll see where that goes. I think that's the standard operating procedure. The only people I know that knew what they wanted to do were people that became doctors, people that became lawyers. And both those people that were my contemporaries that became doctors and lawyers, they're miserable because of all the, they made all that money, but now they got all these hassles and all this kind of stuff, so I don't know. It seems like most of the people that I know that are my age that are happy with what they're doing are doing something they're passionate about, whether it's in volunteer, what do they call that, where you work for somebody but you don't make money? Nonprofits, big area where you go. And then people that get involved, like Kyle, I see what I got involved with. Yeah, sure, I like to drink beer, and yeah, sure, I like to party, but my passion was rugby. So I figured out a way that I could sustain my rugby habit by getting that into my career. No, it wasn't a career, it was a job. And I had no intentions, and I guarantee you my parents had no intentions. Back then, if you were in the restaurant or bar business, it was a part-time job. When are you gonna get a real job? When are you gonna do something else? I think now, more people go out to dinner, there's more restaurants, there's more things going on, so you can make it a career path to be in the restaurant field. But I didn't figure that out until probably the mid-80s, after I'd been in it for 10 years. I always thought I would go to work for the railroad, or I'd sell pharmaceuticals or do something like that. But everything just kept going along all right, it was comfortable, it was going well. So 78, I bought the bar. Holy moly. She turned me up, or I just went like that. And then I had one partner at the time, and then in 1982, at that point in time, the age limit was 18 years old to drink 3-2 beer, and 21, and you had to be a member of a private club to drink whiskey or 5% beer. And that's why Kansas had no good restaurants, because nobody wanted to come here and not be able to sell booze. So everybody had to go to Missouri to get a good meal, Plaza, all that kind of stuff. When in '88, they changed those laws, and they made it illegal to drink anything until you were 21. And they also loosened up the private club laws. So you were able to, if you sold 30% or more food, you could be open to the general public and you didn't have to have a private club. So that was kind of my move that forced me to get into the food angle of it. Prior to that, I sold cheeseburgers behind the bar, but it was beer, Jaeger bomb. It wasn't food until that law came into effect, and then that kind of made me change and go over that way. So we started off with the regular bar food, burgers and fries. Then we built a little small kitchen. We got pork tenderloins and all that kind of stuff. So the law changes. There's 10 Johnnies. One of them is in North Lawrence. That's the one I'm talking about now. And the other ones are across the metro area. There's another one in Lawrence, and then there's 8 here in town. And in 1992, we brought our first store to Kansas City. And our model, people say, man, this is awesome, you got 10 restaurants, and that's unbelievable. But I didn't plan it. It wasn't like I had a plan, this is what's gonna happen, and this is what's gonna do. It was every day getting out, going in, doing what I needed to do, taking care of the business so I could make payroll. This is no cell phone, so I had to find a pay phone. I'd call the bank. Is there enough money in there to make payroll this Friday, or if you can't buy, you have to go get cash, take it over there. And finally in '92, I had 3 partners at the time, and there wasn't enough money there, and we weren't making a lot, so we decided to go to Kansas City and try it out. And that was at 119th and Metcalf. And at that point in time, 119th and Metcalf had just one, developed corner. The other 3 were just still cornfields. It was a big risk, and we were very nervous about it. The bankers didn't want to lend us money. We finally found somebody to do it, and it ended up going great. And it was our flagship. We started making money, and then the idea came in, well, maybe there's a big enough market in the Kansas City area, we could do another one here and there and the other way. And then I keep jumping around a lot here. Am I talking too fast? Because maybe I can just get through this history and then I can open it up to questions, and that way it'll be even better. So when you're developing a restaurant, you have more than one, you gotta do it. I think there's 3 things you need to have it, right? What's the first one that everybody always says about business? What do you gotta have? Money. That's one. Nowadays, you're probably right. What was that location? The old joke was you need 3 things in the restaurant business, right? Location, location, location. That was it. Because you can find the money, you can get somebody to work. Well, I think location is truly important, but I also think the money, getting the financing. Most restaurants fail. I'm not sure about the percentage. I've heard as high as 60 or 70% of a new restaurant closes within 3 years after it's opening up. The main reason they do that is not because they can't afford the $1 million it takes to put in all the stuff, but it's they can't afford the 8 months down the road when business isn't so good they can't make payroll. So you have to have a big bank account, you gotta have backup money. And then the third thing is what?
The PR.
Well, I would say it's the people, the human resources, which is the most important thing. Doesn't matter what kind of location you have, doesn't matter how much money you got. I've been in some losing ventures, we had to keep putting the money in there, but it didn't matter. It's all about the people. So you gotta get people that, depending on what kind of a restaurant you're trying to run, we were talking earlier, there's some places where, the bit is their meat. What do you want? What do you get here? And everybody knows it's that way, so they go there for that. There's other places, my wife runs a fine dining restaurant in Lawrence, and they all wear bow ties and stuff like that. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am, they would never say guys. And then you got Johnny's kind of in the middle where it's friendly and all that. So you gotta get people that are people that can work with staff, that can work with customers. In the restaurant trade, it's all about repeat business. It's not about doing a marketing program and getting 2,000 new people to come to the store. It's about taking care of the 200 people that you already have in your store and giving them a reason to come back and making sure that they get a good experience out of that. And you were saying earlier that Red Robin had great burgers, and there's 10 places that I would rather get a burger at than a Johnny's. Because there's some damn good burgers out there. They make them hand patties, and they're big, and they're awesome. And plus, I don't have to cook them or do any of that kind of stuff, so it's even better. There's places that you can get colder beer than Johnny's. Nowadays, they got these nitro, get them down to 28 degrees or whatever it is. You can buy more expensive and cheaper beer. Like you can get Pabst Blue Ribbons now for like a big can of it for 75 cents or something like that. So there's a lot of competition in all that stuff. So it goes back to the people. They want to come back and they want to see Rick, or they want to come back and they want to see Sally Sue, or whoever it is that's there. Are you guys old enough to know about Cheers? The TV show about the bar business, and that was their whole deal, was that everybody knows your name, everybody's your friend. And people like that, and that's kind of our Johnny's thing. Not only the big screen TVs, but the friendliness and all that kind of stuff. So let's see, some of the big foul-ups I've had. So now we have 10 restaurants. We finally got to this, they call it synergy, or you get to a certain point where Cisco's a big food company, right? And 20 years ago, I was buying meat from one guy, and buns from another guy, and French fries from another guy, and one kind of beer, 10, 12 different people coming in. Well, once you get to that point where you're buying enough stuff, then they start giving you these price breaks. So now I have Cisco, I got a couple of guys I've kept on, my Pepsi guy, because he's a good guy, and I don't want to get him off. I probably, if it was just a business decision, I'd go straight through the pipeline. But now we get a big truck that comes out to every store twice, everything, from rolls of paper to meat comes off of this truck. They filter it all through those guys. We get a, they used to call it a kickback, now they call it a rebate, you know, for buying in bulk and doing that kind of stuff. So the struggle that we've had with Johnny's, and then we always have, we got that synergy thing. So now we have every realtor in the world wants us to put a Johnny's in their little strip mall. So we have lots of opportunities for locations. Lots of bankers want to lend us money because we haven't had a loser for 15 or 20 years. We paid all our notes back. We usually get 7-year financing, so it'll cost us about $1.2 to $1.5 million to put in a restaurant. We put 20% down ourselves, and then we finance the rest of it. We set it up on a 7-year payoff, but every one we've done, we paid it off in 5 years. Typically don't take the dividends out, put the money back in. So the theory is that you open a new place, you pay it off in 5 years, you make some big money, year 6, 7, 8, and then you gotta borrow more money again to, you know, go back in and redo it, rehab it, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a cycle deal. I think the biggest mistake, the biggest business decision I ever made that really saved me a lot of, because at some point in time, it's more about saving yourself time than it is money. Sometimes it's better to spend a little more money if you're gonna save time. So they came out with this new gizmo. We had peanuts down there at Johnny's in 1978, and everybody would throw them on the floor. So we had a broom and a dustpan, and, you know, take, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, sweep up the floor at the end of the night when you wanted to be going to the after party, but you were working. And my partner came and said, hey, they got this new thing out, it's called dry wet vac. And it will suck all this stuff up just like this. And I was like, man, we can't afford that. It's $75 or whatever it was. Come on, let's just try it, let's try it. So we ended up buying it, and it was like unbelievable. I was so happy for the next 6 months. I didn't need any new equipment or nothing. And the other silly thing that I did is, there was no TV at Johnny's when I bought it. And my idea was it was gonna be a pub where you would visit with people, and I didn't want the TV to interfere with the conversation. And so my partner came to me and he said, all right, in May of this year, it's May of 1979, might have been 78, they're gonna start this new thing on TV, it's called ESPN, and they're supposed to have all these different sports channels and all that kind of stuff. And I said, over my dead body, I'll never put a TV in here. Now, when we spend $1.2 million on a new restaurant, about 400,000, third of it is in the TVs. We have a whole room, it's got all these satellite things in it. It costs about $25,000 to $30,000 a year just for the NFL ticket. So it's a major part of our operation and what we do and all that kind of stuff. So it just shows you how wrong you can be about things. And I still don't do the Twitter and the Facebook, but in every location we have somebody on staff that's in charge of our Facebook, and they take the pictures and they put them on the magic airwaves, and everybody's supposed to see them and all that. We have a whole committee that does that PR, and they do Twitter, they do Facebook, and they do local stuff. And about 7 or 8 years ago, 10 years ago, we tied in heavy with KU, IMG, which is their big sponsoring outfit. So we spent a lot of money, like, I don't know, $70,000 or $80,000 a year with those guys, and then we get coupons in the back of the tickets, and we get signage at the games, all that kind of stuff. And I think that's, you know, the branding idea. Fortunately, in that location I'm at in North Lawrence, I don't really have to do a lot. It's all word of mouth. I used to advertise in the UDK, and I used to advertise in the local Sunflower Cablevision. I don't do that anymore because I don't see, you know, get back. But I know you have to do branding. So I do a lot of things with charities. St. Patrick's Day, we just had a run. We fed 400 people. Once a week, there's some kind of a charity that we're giving a gift certificate to or doing something like that. I feel like that's the goodwill and getting the branding out there and doing all that kind of stuff. I don't know, could I maybe get some questions now, or?
I'm sure there are some.
I covered a lot of ground there, but, yes, ma'am.
You offer pay-per-view events?
Do we offer pay-per-view events? Typically, no. In the first day, in the old days, yes. Because back then, nobody had any TVs at their house. A TV was like $8,000 for a 72, or they didn't have 72 inch, they're probably 60 inch. It was $8,000. So we had 2 or 3 of those at the bar. Not everybody at home had the little screens. So yes, we did pay-per-view. And it's all about the occupancy. They charge you, if your occupancy is 200, they charge you $1,000, whatever it is. But since people now have bars at home and big screen TVs and all that, I don't remember, the last time we did a pay-per-view deal was this, one where they beat the shit out of each other all the time. What's that called? Yeah. I didn't even want to see it. And that drew in a bad crowd too, so we didn't do that.
And also, I wanted to ask, why did you have a third party?
Why did I add a third partner, she says. I would go back to what I said before. What, to me, what do you think the most important thing in my business relationships is? People? Right. So not only the bus boy or the dishwasher, but my partner. All the way up the deal. And I don't believe there's a lot of people, like, I don't know, I'm not gonna talk politics. But there's people that think they can do everything themselves. They don't need anybody, they're gonna take care of it. I don't know any of those people personally, and I read a lot of biographies and a lot of histories, and most of those people fail at some point in time, because they don't get the help of other people and do. The most successful people I know have a whole bunch of people that they count on, they help, and they do. It's a win-win situation. I've been, when I first started, there were 2 of us, and we added a third one. The reason we added a third one is because when they changed the laws, the sweet spot at Johnny's was from 1982 to 1988. Because we had a private club upstairs called the Up and Under, and that was hopping all night long. We opened at 4 in the afternoon, we stayed up until 3 a.m. in the morning. And downstairs we had Johnny's Bar, which was open at 7 a.m. in the morning with the construction guys, until 12 at night. So the college kids, back then they used to go out at 7 or 8 o'clock at night. They didn't wait till 11 o'clock at night. So they come to Johnny's and drink, and then they go to the Up and Under. So it was awesome. So we added a third partner because it was too much work for 2 of us to do. And plus I knew him, I'd worked with
Didn't know
him.
if it was financial or?
Yeah, we've never added a part. Well, right now there's 10 Johnnies, and there's 4 people that I call major partners. Myself and 3 other guys that have been with me for a long time. We each own some percentage of each Johnny's. So for instance, I own 100% of the Johnny's in North Lawrence, 80% of the one in West Lawrence, and then I only own 10 to 15% of the ones here. Thank goodness that KP&L store is the 15%, because that's a very good store. But what we've done is we've opened it up, so there'll be 5 of us that own 10, 20%, and then we get a manager who's our general manager, and we give them an opportunity. They've worked with us already for 5 years. It's not like we're pulling somebody in off the street. They work their way up. They want to be in the business. We say, all right, you go run this store for 2 years, and we'll give you an opportunity to buy. We're not giving anything to you, but at a discount. If we think the store's worth $600,000 and it gets up to 700, we're not going to charge you 700, but we'll charge you 600. So now there's 14 people that have a small percentage. The least is a girl just bought in a couple months ago. She's been with us for 10 years. She bought 3% of the KP&L store. So every store that we have, there's somebody in there that's got some skin in the game. And they get their money, they get a salary for doing the work, but they're also a partner. So if they make more money, they get more money. If they lose money, they got to take it out of their pocket. That's life is up and down, and business is up and down. And I'm concerned about 6 of these brand new partners that I've taken on in the last 5 or 6 years, because everything we've done has paid a dividend. It's like the stock market. If you're in the stock market for the last 4 or 5 years, you're kicking ass and you're taking names. There's going to be a downturn. And the same way in the restaurant business, at at some point in time, things are gonna go south and you're gonna have to kick in some of your own money. And I told my major partners, I said, maybe this would be a good lesson. Instead of handing out dividend checks next time, we tell everybody, hey, you gotta come up with $2,000 to cover payroll. I said, we wouldn't do that legally, but we just make the point of, because I think people get too, they think everything's gonna be rosy all the time. It's not.
Confident.
Yeah, what's that?
That's the confident.
Yeah, confident. Yeah, once you're on top, you're gonna stay on top, and it's always gonna be like that. It's not. I've been in it 40 years, and I've had 4 or 5 ups and downs. There's been 3 or 4 times where I probably should have sold whatever I was in and gotten out. Yeah. Yes?
Yeah, what's your biggest challenge today? And 2 is, how much food are you selling these days versus back in the 70s in Lawrence?
Well, let's see. I'll go to the biggest challenge today afterwards, and I'll answer those technical questions first. In North Lawrence, in 1978, I was probably doing $250,000 a year. Now I'm doing a little over $1 million a year down there. When I first started, 90% of my sales was beer, 10% was burgers and chips and stuff. That's crept up, so now when I'm doing $1 million a year, about 65% is food, and about 35 or 40 is beer and alcohol. The new stores that we opened in Kansas City, they started off selling more, because they're more like restaurants. You go into a Johnny's here in Kansas City, they got tables and little kids, and they got high chairs and coffee, and it's a restaurant. And so they sell about 60 to 70% of their total sales. And they do, I'm the lowest grossing store at a little over $1 million, and our highest grossing is the one at KP&L, and they do a little over 4, and the other ones are in that 2.5. If we can do 1.6 to 2.5, we're fucking solid. Excuse me, we're solid. That's the first one I've done, right? I told him that I worked in the bar business and I talked like a sailor, so you cut that out already, right? Thank you. Andrew's my buddy from Lawrence, he knows about Johnny. Yes?
So I was just wondering, so when you moved out of Lawrence, opened your first Johnny's Tavern in Overland Park or wherever you opened
Yeah.
in the Kansas City metro area, was there any ways you tried to market out that just failed, like just didn't work, you think was a waste? I know you said you did like the commercials and those, was there any other, like what were some ways you reached out to the community?
That didn't work?
Yeah.
I need to go back and tell you my biggest challenge, and don't let me forget that, because I got several of them, but I'll get the best one. This was another lesson. They have, you guys, I'm sure you guys know what PTO means, right? Does anybody know what in the work world? You get benefits, right? One of them is PTOs. Anybody know what that is? Paid time off. Now, I've been in business for 40 years, and I never heard it until my daughter said, I got a PTO, what's that? So I'm not going to work tomorrow, and they're paying me. And I go, whoa, wait a minute, what's that all about? So, along with that is when we were in Lawrence, we were going to go to Kansas City, and we had 1 or 2 real estate guys telling us to come in there. So we only had 2 locations to look at. We actually paid a girl who was 22 and just graduated from KU. She was a marketing major, and she was really nice looking, and my partner really liked her, and I think there might have been something happening there. And we ended up hiring her, and she did. She went through the Chamber of Commerce, and she, no internet, she went to the library, and she probably spent 20 or 30 hours compiling information. How many college graduates, within a 5-mile radius, how many college graduates, who went to KU, all kinds of stuff. And when we got the information, we were very surprised at it. Well, 2 ways. Number one is we could have done that ourselves and saved $5,000. It would have been easy to do. Now, I mean, the projects after that, that's what we started doing. Now we don't have time, so we do hire somebody to do that. Or usually the developer gives us all that information. But they were coming out with something then called direct mail. So with the zip, it was supposed to be hooked up to the zip code, and it went to just the houses within a 5-mile radius. There was a coupon in it. And that didn't work very well. It was probably good for branding, but we didn't see a lot of people coming back in there. Radio, if you're on a big station and it's during the chief season, like 810 or 610, then that's might be a good thing. But I got suckered into the Lawrence local 1320 AM radio. You know, I know them all, and trying to help out and that kind of stuff. I don't think that's a payout. Door to door is awesome. When I first started selling pizza in North Lawrence, did I knock on your door over there?
You did, yeah, you actually did.
Did I
Do
really?
you want me to tell you the story?
Sure.
You had, there were two guys that came up when I was, helping with the house, and they just gave us a flyer saying, hey, we're selling pizza now. And we were completely blown away by the idea of it, because we didn't think you guys ever would. And, we came in a week later, it was the best pizza we ever had, so we got to stop doing
Yeah.
that.
So I'm a firm believer in eyeball to eyeball and face to face. I'm struggling at my fine dining restaurant in Lawrence. It's called it was called Morisco's. Morisco's is Spanish for shellfish. I know you, don't I? We know each other? No?
Back of a
Look
milk
familiar.
carton, that's
Huh?
about it.
Back what?
Back of a milk carton.
Okay, all right. Like that up against the wall, okay, yeah. It's called Morisco, it was called Morisco's, which means shellfish in Spanish. And our idea is we were gonna bring mahi-mahi and sea bass and oysters and all this kind of stuff to Kansas. And it was a total flop. Because people in Kansas don't want, or especially Lawrence, Kansas City a little different. They don't want to spend the money on it, it's a college town, it's too high price. If they're gonna eat fish, they want fried catfish and crappie and not, you know, the other stuff. So it was a struggle, and we hung in there. It was about a 10-year fighting it, paying in, getting some out, back and forth. And then we decided to rebrand and do a whole new marketing thing. And the hardest thing we had to do for that was to come up with a name. And we ended up with J. Wilson's, which I like, because it's Johnny Wilson's, and it ties the two together. And I have a very successful Johnny's right across the street, so we're doing a lot of cross-marketing now, back and forth. It's starting to pick up and do better. But I don't know. The surefire thing is word of mouth. Giving a customer a good experience, they're my marketing. They go back and they tell other people about what's
I
going
know it would
on.
have been hard, like, when Kansas City people might not have known your name, like the Johnny's Tavern brands, and
Well,
word of mouth would have been hard to start.
And you know what sold the deal on that? Because you're exactly right. Now, there was two things on that. One is I didn't want to be around any K-State or Missouri fans at the time. And number two was we thought everybody would say, well, there's Lawrence guys there. But we did a part of that marketing thing, 5-mile radius. Remember, there was no development to the south or to the west. It was all to the north and the east. There were 50, at that time in Lawrence, there was only 60,000 people living in the whole town. There was 50,000 people that went to KU in that 5-mile radius right there. So it was a no-brainer. That's what clicked for us. We said, let's try. And it's, at first, we honed in on the KU connection and all that. But the further we got away from KU, now we're in Lee Summit, Blue Springs, KP&L. So it's just a sports bar. So my hardest thing now is the same hardest thing I had when I was, I can't believe nobody told me no. I was 21 years old when I got my liquor license. I was 21 years old when I bought the bar, and nobody said no. I thought somebody would have at some point in time, but they didn't, so I just kept going ahead. And back then, the hardest thing, and it's still my hardest thing now, is the relationships and the human resource issues that I deal with. Back then, it was with, oh, the waitress didn't show up, gosh dang it, I'm gonna have to get somebody down here, and I don't wanna fire her because I can't find anybody else. And now it's, man, your manager had sexually harassing this girl over here, you know. It's just a higher level and more out there. I think my son is 25, and he wants to get into the business, and he's been in it for a while. He started as a dishwasher when he was like 8 years old. We had to have a milk carton crate for him to stand on so he could reach the machine. And then he got into management. And I used to get so sick and tired of hearing him. He'd come home every night and say, Sally Sue, I told her to do that 3 times and she wouldn't do it. And it just over and over. And I finally said, hey, look, man, realize this is the business you're in. Some of this staff that you're dealing with is lower echelon. They're not that smart anyway. We gotta weed them out, get the ones in here that can handle it, but that takes time. It's a big operation. You're really a glorified babysitter. Just like a stewardess, you know, they're not really pilots or anything like that. They get you coffee and they do stuff like that. It's the same thing in the restaurant trade, is you are a babysitter. If you're a manager in the restaurant trade and you're working the floor, you're a babysitter, kindergarten. You gotta watch everything, watch everybody. Give them, hey, great job, I saw you do that, that's awesome. All those books they have, those 1 Minute Manager books, Ken Blanchard and those guys, awesome. Good. I'll throw a plug in for, do you guys know about Mary? She wrote The Butcher's Daughter, Wisdom from the,
Lunch meat and life.
yeah, Lunch Meat and Life Lessons. Yeah, Mary Bicker,
Bicklemeyer.
Bicklemeyer, yeah.
Lucas.
Yeah, Lucas is her name now. And she's come and spoke to our group a couple of times, and I bought everybody on our staff the book. It's really a good book. Common sense. So, did they still say that thing, everything you already, you learn, everything you need to know, you learned in kindergarten? Is that still a saying? Well, it's true. Be nice to people. Call them back. Yes, ma'am.
How did you keep from getting that crowd that likes to tear the place up and fight each other for the last beer or whatever?
Yeah. Well, when I first went to Johnny's, I told you I was a little nervous. I was a big stud. I thought I was invincible.
That's
but
why
I was
nobody ever told you no.
probably. Yeah, I can spread the shit pretty good. You just gotta confront that up front, just like any other problems that you have. You gotta take them off to the side, not embarrass them in front of their friends. Hey, Charlie, you've had too much to drink. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Or, hey, Charlie, this is the last time, you're not coming back. You gotta monitor. Because alcohol
You can't
is a
reason.
different subject. Huh? No,
Can't reason.
no, nor should you try to, nor should you get at their level. That's why I've always had a problem with the term bouncer, because to me, your door person is like your Walmart greeter. You should have some old lady there, or old guy, good evening, welcome to Johnny's, can I see your ID? You can't do that here, Sonny, and then they're not gonna hit her, but you got some guy that's, you can't do that here, and then the confrontation just happens. So you gotta monitor it. It's a potential problem all the time because of the alcohol, even though it's a restaurant. I mean, there'll be instances in any of our Kansas City stores where two guys will be at the bar and one will start talking loud and doing all that. So you try and do it undercover so that they don't get embarrassed and it's all good. And if you're there early on, no problem. It's when the stools are flying and everybody's into it and then it's over with.
So you're just constantly alert for it and.
I am in North Lawrence more so than they would be at 119th. Because 119th, there's not that much issue, yeah. And then it's different after 10 o'clock at night than it is at 7 o'clock at night.
Expanding out of the metro area at all? St.
You know, we've
Louis?
been kicking around going to Topeka. In fact, I think we're gonna sign a contract for that. That's scary. Topeka's a rough town as far as restaurant trade is concerned. And we're looking at South Kansas City, or like 159th Street where that new mobile thing is going in up there. Metcalf.
Farther south.
Is it 100, go farther south? Yeah. That's what everybody tells me that lives in the boondocks, but you gotta have the population base.
Never heard of Fox.
What?
Never heard of the Red Fox?
The Red Fox, yeah, absolutely.
That needs to
Yeah.
happen again.
Right, yeah, that's a good place.
Yeah.
And out of state, you know, we've looked at franchising. And I'm in the last stages of this trademark thing. What's the other thing I learned? PTO is paid time off. Non-revenue employees. Holy moly, I got those guys out the rear end now. That's like accountants, lawyers, real estate guys, that kind of stuff. So we're getting a trademark. We haven't had our logo trademark, so it's in the process of doing that. That's thousands of dollars to do that, time and effort. And we looked probably three different times, we seriously looked at franchising. But I believe for me, I'm 61, I'm trying to figure out my exit strategy instead of keep it going. So there's too many restrictions and too many things that could happen negatively. You know, you franchise something in Arizona and they do something that you don't have control over, and then you get sued for that. I don't want to have anything to do. The way we have this set up, I think, is a great way we have it set up, by getting people in our organization so everybody that owns a share of Johnny's works there. We don't have any doctors or people that invest and when I retire, if I quit working at Johnny's, I have to sell my shares back to those people. I can't keep those shares and walk off. I think it's important that the people that are working get an opportunity to share in either profits or losses.
How did
Yes.
you determine that setup? Did you have advisors, or was it your attorney, or how did you
figure out how to do that?
how did you determine the setup that you say you have and you like?
So one of my mentors was Went Winters, and he was a state senator, and he owned People's Bank. He was a lawyer. He was the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, which is for Kansas, which is big, powerful. He was buddies with Bob Dole, big time guy. And I was 18 when I met him, probably 19. And he was 42, and we came out for rugby at the same time. And I saw this old man sitting across from me, and man, you gotta be easy on him, I don't wanna hurt him. And he came down, he flattened me out, and I thought I broke a rib or something. And I got up and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he ended up being because back then, we didn't have money, we didn't want to pay a lawyer. So everything we did through the road, we had pro bono, I'll buy you a cheeseburger, you give me some advice. And so he had us in his office, he had his coat and tie on, we had rugby gear, there was two of us. He says, all right, we're gonna set up this corporation here. He goes, but I want you to know two things. One is you can do whatever you want to do. There's lots of books written about it, there's lots of ways to go about things, but you can do whatever you want to do. I suggest that you make it as fair as you can for everyone, and if it's as fair as you can for everyone, then it'll be a good contract. If it's unfair for somebody, then somebody's going to figure a way to wiggle out of it and get done with it and all that kind of stuff. And he said, the second thing I'm going to tell you is I'm only doing this for you once, and you don't lose the seed corn. So you keep this little corporate, it's like a 4-page corporate thing. You keep this, every year you gotta file with the Secretary of State, and do this, that, and the other thing. And I don't want you coming back to me in 5 years and going, we lost our deal, we lost our corporate. So I did learn that. We have a pretty good filing system. And then what we did is we tried to figure out a fair way. What would be a fair way? Sally Sue wants to buy in, she doesn't have any money. We're not going to give it to her. Well, maybe we can finance it for her. And if we structure it to where her dividends will pay her note payment, she doesn't have to come up, she has to come up with 10% out of pocket just to know she's serious. And then if business stays the same and it's good, she'll have enough money to pay that note off, and she won't have, but if business is bad, she might have to put some money into the kitty, and she might have to pay the note off at the same time. So that's how the initial thing came, and we've tweaked it. I'd say that was probably in 87 or 88 when we kind of got that idea. There was I read a lot, I told you, and one of the new phenomenons then in the 80s was that Australian place, steak place. Huh? Outback. Yeah, the guy talks like an Aussie, fake Aussie. And that was their model. And I was reading and I was going, these guys copied me. I came up with that idea first. So, but I try and keep, and then now, where I'm at now, I can call other people in the industry, hey, how'd you handle this? What'd you do? My brother is in the accounting business, and I used to take him a paper bag with all my stuff in it, throw it off. And he'd sort through it and do all that. And he sold his accounting firm, and now he's another non-revenue employee for us. He's our CFO, Chief Financial Officer. So he has gotten other attorneys and other accountants and business, everybody specializes now. And everybody's checked it out, and we haven't changed it hardly at all. So it's been a pretty good, solid thing. We've tightened up a few deals on it, and every year we have to remind ourselves about it. We get it out, look at it, what, do we really mean that? And then we'll argue through it again, and we end up at the same place we were. We're probably wasting our time, but it's good for us to go through that. Because now we got enough people, if somebody dies, or somebody gets divorced, or those kinds of things, we want to make sure everybody's on the same page and knows what's going on. Yes? We only have, excuse me, and we're done, right? Are we gonna get out of here early, or are we gonna go all?
Actually, we've got to 1:45, but we don't need to go
I'm
that.
done
We can
talking
go
at
to
1:28.
12:30. Well,
So if you got
12:30.
questions.
I just
I
wonder.
mean, yeah, one, yeah. Yes.
At like 5 years, is that when like maybe somebody comes to you and says, hey, I've got an interest in wanting to, I've worked with you for 5 years, or do you offer it to them at a certain point?
Both.
Is there
Both. And typically the ones that come and ask us, hey, I've been here 5 years, I want to get in, we'll say, it's never, oh yeah, we want you in, but it's like, okay, we'll put you on the list, and then it's usually a little bit longer for them, because then they're on the radar and we know their interests and all that. But more than not, we will go to the guy and say, hey man, you did a great job, we're ready to open this new location, what do you think about getting in the restaurant? And it's all about whether they want to be in it for a career. Because we don't really, we have a lot of part-timers, moms and lawyers that work at night and all that. But as far as our management team and the partners, they all have to be committed to the restaurant business full-time. And it's a little of both. It's more now, because all these opportunities come to us, it's more us going to them. In fact, we're having a hard time with Topeka because we got, one of my partners works at the West Lawrence store, which is an awesome store. He makes a lot of money. He's very good at it. He's great. And his second in command, Justine, I'm ready to sell her some shares and have her move in. And his third in command is probably ready to be a general manager with a lot of help. So this Topeka store, I want to take the third guy here, move him as the general manager over there, and then have Jason help both of them so he becomes more of like a regional manager. But my partners don't know this third guy, they don't trust him. They want Jason to know. Every time we've done it, we've had a major partner go and open the store and be there. And I think Jason could be more valuable to the whole organization if he was here helping both of these people as opposed to him just being here. And then what are you going to do with the third guy? So we have discussions like that all the time. I mean, once a week. We usually do it. We usually are pretty good about it with my 4 others. There's 5 of us, major partners. And we talk about issues like that. We meet for an hour and a half. We have another non-revenue thing. Dang, they're building up. A corporate office, so we got a little strip mall office, conference room. My brother's office is in there. Keep our book work there, that kind of stuff. Plus those non-revenue employees create more work for me. Because when he wasn't as concerned with this, I didn't get an email twice a week going, hey, how come you haven't done this, that?
You said how,
Yes.
Jessica and I will just keep
Yeah.
asking questions if nobody else does, but, you said, how important the people are. How do you train your people to make sure that they,
Yeah,
do project the image you want and do interact with customers that you want? And
it's constant, and it's vigorous, and it's overwhelming. So we have a book that's, here's how you change the price register in the register. This is what you do if you're closing at the end of the night. It's about that thick. And there's several chapters in there on training. So typically what we do is we put a new hire, they'll come in, they'll be interviewed by 2 of the managers, and if they both like them, then we get them on, and they'll have one orientation shift, which is an hour and a half long. They go through every page of that book with one of the managers. They get a tour of the place, they see where everything's at, Then they come in, they'll typically work for 3 times as a shadow with whatever position they're doing, whether it's a bartender, or an expo, or a cook, or a waitress. Follow them around, ask questions, see what's going on. Then 2 times, they're supposed to have somebody watching them while they're doing the stuff. That's how it's supposed to happen. It doesn't always happen like that. When it does happen like that, it's better for everybody. It's better for the new hire because they're better trained. It's better for us because they're better trained. But sometimes circumstances, it's not in the old days, what are you doing tomorrow afternoon? Could you come and help me work lunch down there at Johnny's? Yeah, in the old days, that's how I got, somebody would quit, walk away, and I'd go pull somebody off the street. I'll teach you on the fly. But that doesn't work anymore. We have too much stuff going on, so we have to have a formalized training program. And it's just the old people thing, right? Some people pick it up quicker. Some people will pick it up, but it takes them longer. And some people never will pick it up. And what do you think? What do you think is the most important thing that we're looking for when we're deciding? We have now, because one of my other non-revenue employees is an HR guy. So he's on, what do you call it? I pay him so much a month, I can call him anytime I want. Retainer. So there's so many rules and regulations, and you gotta really, we're dealing with thousands of employees now. Each store has about 150 to 200 people that work at it. So there's lots of moving parts and things going on out there. So you have to do it legally, and you want to do it morally, and you want to do it ethically. And so I want to know, what do you guys think is the most important quality or trait that I'm looking for from somebody when I'm deciding whether or not because we don't hire everybody right now. There's a 6-month probationary period. So for up to 6 months, I can let that person go just because I don't like them. But once they're hired on permanently, then you gotta have all the records, you gotta do all that kind of stuff. So there's like a 6-month probation. So what am I looking for during that?
Communication skills.
Communication skills is good, you need that. What else? Charismatic, you want that? Yes, ma'am. Customer service skills, I want that. That's awesome, you gotta have it. Yes, ma'am.
Integrity.
Integrity is huge and honesty is huge, it's still not the most important. What?
Listening.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Listening.
Listening skills, yeah.
Respect.
Huh?
Respect.
Respect. Those are all awesome skills. I'd like to combine them all in one. That's not what I'm looking for. Availability, being able to get there and do it. Still not the most important.
Profitable.
Profitable. I can't believe you guys aren't getting this.
What? Give us a
Everybody's
hint.
got to get a
Give us
guess.
a hint.
It's the most important personal trait that anybody has in their life.
Yeah.
The only thing you have control over. You have nothing, you have no control over anything but this. Your attitude.
Oh.
It's all about your attitude. It's the only thing you have control over. Everything else is somebody else's freaking fault. But how do you deal with it? And it's the only thing that, we all have tragedies in our lives, and we all have serious bad shit happens. And you have to realize that not everybody knows what you're going through, not everybody's in your situation. How can they? They aren't. So you gotta come off as, I want to do all those 10 things you guys just told me about, because that's what I want. But somebody with a good attitude will do all that stuff. Where if somebody like, oh man, why I said that, they're a cancer, you want to get rid of them. I don't want to be around them. That's why I feel so lucky. I don't have to be around jerks. Just get them out of my life. The customers sometimes I have to be around. They can be jerks, but I can go to another table. Yep, exactly. You're an actor or an actress. We all are, right? Every time you're in this group here, I'm sure not everybody's doing exactly what they would or want to do, but you're at least acting like you're paying attention to me. It's awesome. Who else has a question? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, like in this day and age of sexual harassment.
Yeah, it's
And
huge.
then do you have, with your business, a PR person And say an employee did allege sexual harassment, do you have your own spokesperson? Do you write your own speech? Do you have your speech writer? How do you go about?
If we're gonna go to the public, you mean?
Right.
Uh,
For the image of-
That doesn't happen very often.
Or if it-
Usually, that's like, if we've had a couple of major, like, I think there was a food poisoning thing at one point in time. And there was never been, we've had quite a few, not quite a few, we've had less than half a dozen, but maybe 5 sexual harassment cases that have been settled out of court and all through all that kind of stuff. So there's a very specific protocol that we have that's spelled out. Everybody's had an opportunity to read it and know what's going on. So if something happens, you go to your immediate supervisor. If it's that person, you go to the next person. If not, we got a safety valve. Louis, my partner, they can call him directly. And then we immediately suspend whatever person the allegations. You know, it's gone the whole way from, oh, let's find out first if there's really an issue here or not, to, hey, if there's an allegation, he's out of here, and then we'll clear him later, or her, or him later, and do all that. Now, going to the public, we usually caucus. Hey, I know the newspapers will be coming by and talking about this new chocolate beer that we got. What are you gonna say, and who's gonna say it? And we know in each store who could handle something like that. So no, we don't have that's another one I need to add to my non-revenue employee person, right?
There you go.
Yeah, somebody deal with the press. Yes, sir.
In your Lawrence stores, is there a noticeable difference in sales in like football and basketball season?
Yeah, he asked me if there's in the Lawrence store, if there's more noticeable difference between events. He specifically said football and basketball. Huge, huge, huge. Oh my goodness. 1988, we won the national championship, and I added half the square footage again to Johnny's. I called my buddy Joe Kiltucker who told me about the pizza. I said, "You can't believe how much money I made down here. It's awesome. It's all cash then. It wasn't credit cards." So I got all this money sitting there, and he goes, "All right, I'm going to give you some advice. Go take $2,000 out, go have a good time, and have a party and have fun. Put the rest of it in a big box and bury it somewhere where you won't be able to find it, because you're going to need it in June or July." And he was exactly right. 4 months later, I was spending all that money that I thought I had. The football team is huge, especially up there at KU, because we're so poor that we only get 18 to 20,000 people showing up at a 52,000 seat stadium. In 2008 was my best year ever down there. That's when we went to the Orange Bowl. There was 52,000 people coming to the game, and those extra 30,000, they don't really care as much about the football game as they do about partying and drinking. So it's huge, huge, huge. The Chiefs are big for us too in the metro area. And you know, sports bars, and there's a few people that like the New York Giants and the Green Bay Packers and all that, but when you get your hometown team into it, man, it's awesome. It's big, big money. Well, I got something going on tomorrow down there at the Sprint Center, the Big 12 tournament for 4 days. So we'll make as much money in 4 days as we do in a month. Yeah. Okay, any other last minute questions? Are we done? Yes, ma'am. One last one.
Your Topeka location, would you consider putting in tacos?
Yeah, we do have tacos now. We have some of the best
You do?
street tacos, yeah, ever.
Tacos are going to do really well in
Are
Topeka.
they? Okay, yeah. Good. Well, thanks for the advice. Will you come to our grand opening? All right, good.
Are the menus at all the Johnny's the same?
You know, that's a struggle that we have. We want to be our own local neighborhood. North Lawrence is a little different than somewhere else. But when we're buying bulk food and when people are going from location, you can't be just like McDonald's, but you got to be more like McDonald's than you are just a mom and pop. So 90% of our menus are the same. There's 10%. Like I have a pork tenderloin and somebody else might not have a pork tenderloin. So that's it. Hey guys, thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'm going to hang around for 5 or 10 minutes if anybody wants to visit about it.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. That is
Thank you,
awesome.
Barbara.
Awesome.
This is.
Sure. I'll probably do that. I'll have to talk with my editor, make sure that's okay.
Okay, I just want to.
What's your name?
Get my.
You like me, I go to my internship. I got a whole.
Y'all should get your numbers and all
She put me on the email. And your name is Catherine, right? Yes. Okay, good.
No, I didn't give you my notes.
No, I got that your email.
No, we gotta get your phone number. We can't.
No,
I gave him out the